Hello, citizens of the world. Today, we talk a little bit about music changing our emotions that in turn could change our world. Now, everyone knows that music had been part of our lives since centuries ago. Different people have different indigenous idea in terms of creating music for ceremonial purpose, for emotionally getting everyone together, for funeral, as well as for other occasions that require celebration in the past. Come to this century, many of the music had been changed to reflect whatever that is emotionally what emotionally someone is feeling at that moment. Some are for joyous occasion, some is to illustrate their frustration in life, while some others are maybe a hint of different perspectives, views, exploring different sounds, creating special emotions for a lot of different conditions, different occasions. Whereas some are basically senseless, which is just creating noise to explore emotions, as well as making music as part of life. Now there are certain types of music that follows the flow of whatever a person is feeling, just like an artist. Some expressions may not garner any meaning towards their songs or towards their sound, whereas some other form of music is created to generate certain atmosphere, triggering our senses, as well as creating an illusion of thoughts, just simply by creating certain sounds. Like if you watch horror movies, you will have noise that is pinchy, as well as eerie, in order to generate that emotion of fear, emotion of misery, or in darkness. While some other music or sound are created to be more cheerful, creating emotions of feeling glorious or feeling much more heroic and things like that. Music had always been embedded not only in terms of pleasure or enjoyment. Military style music, such as band or even wartime noise and drums that make sounds of creating that sense of invincibility, had always been in part of our life. Now modern days, they focus less on such things, is because in modern days we are stretched to be more expressive, and majority of our perspective towards music had changed to be more of a leisure uh, than creating a purpose of potentially use for other stuff. Recent genre mostly hidden in games that use and created sound to motivate or even build courage in an individual. All of this tend to be used not directly but indirectly to create an atmosphere to intentionally generate certain emotions as well as reactions. So the topic of this question is what role does music play in our life, and could music be changing the world potentially? Is it possible? From my understanding and theory is that yes, it does play a certain level to kind of paint your perspective or emotion to a certain different direction, and it does in certain very specific case change a potential situation to be something else. Now, how do we use music to potentially change our future? It is crucial that in modern days we create sounds or music that is a little bit more harmonious. This doesn't just limit to the responsibility of people who listens to music. It does involve the artists themselves. Majority of the time these days a lot of music generate a very sad tone to reflect our current situation, like the pandemic, disaster, as well as a lot of things that people could relate at this time, mostly based on sort of a grim condition that we are living in right now. So the thing about creating a much more joyous emotion require artists or the one who is creating music to actually feel, as music reflects what happens to day-to-day life. And if we intentionally try to create a false sense of joyous music, the effect will not be as good as the real situation that reflect our condition right now. But that doesn't mean that we bound to follow current situation. In terms of creating a music that is much more uplifting, one needs to only not to avoid but find effort to look for more good news that is joyous to celebrate about. get inspired by those news and create to counter. What I notice in the industry is that there are currently very little music that could trigger the emotion of something like encouraging, you could say, or maybe creating something that is kind of suggesting maybe the potential of saving the world in a joyous tone, I suppose. It's not a very easy thing to do, as most of the time music that is created in that specific requires not only a very deep understanding about how music could play one's emotion, it's also combining that with the purpose of creating the music itself. So it would seem that yes, music does play a role, a very quiet role, if you may, in terms of making or generating that emotion to encourage people to think in one different direction, which is not too hard to learn for people who enjoys listening to a lot of very different genre of music, as they would sooner or later realize the kind of like the secret of able to harness that sort of emotion to create in their music. But in modern days, at our current time, I felt that the music industry in general is focusing more towards a very purposeful base that is trendy. I would presume that many who is relying on music for work would not risk creating music that is too overly new to potentially earn nothing. Well, I still hope that potentially the people, especially those that is capable to create music, would try, would not be afraid to try in trying to achieve that kind of journey, or running their music in that terms of direction. I do hope that in the future I'm able to listen to more music that could break through of what the current trend is. For that being said, I hope everyone stay creative and innovative. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.